Hi Cancer, welcome to Sweet Tea Astrology and Tarot. My name's Erica. Welcome to the channel. I'm so glad you found me. This is your February 2017 astrology video where I'm going to talk about some astrological placements that are going to be occurring in the month of February, and then I'm going to pull you some tarot cards and some oracle cards to round out this video. So Cancer, why don't you sit a spell so we can talk about your stars? On February 3rd or 4th, depending on where you live on the planet, Venus, the planet that represents love, beauty, and harmony, also money and resources, is moving into Aries, meeting up with Mars and Uranus already in your 10th house. William Shakespeare said, "All the world is a stage," and I see the 10th house as the stage that you approach the world on, and it's how the world knows you. The 10th house is the house of Capricorn, and it's the house of your career, your status, your reputation. It deals with authorities. So it's how you deal with authority figures in your world or on a day-to-day basis, or dealing with authority figures in their field, like an expert. The 10th house is also a house of destiny. So it may feel like some of these interactions may feel a little destined, especially with Uranus being there as well. Could feel kind of fated. Now, February 7th or 8th, depending on where you live on the planet, we have Mercury, the planet of thought, movement, and communication, moving into Aquarius, meeting up with the Sun in your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of Scorpio, and it's a very deep house. It's the underbelly, if you will. It's the house of life, death, and rebirth, that entire life cycle. It's the house of transformation, metamorphosis, and regeneration. It governs other people's money and sexuality, which really kind of reemphasizes the fact of me feeling like there may be a couple of you Cancerians out there having some pretty flirtatious energy going on. Pardon me. Especially with this placement as well, following up, like I said, Venus moving into Aries. So there could be a lot of communication involving those themes of life, of other people's money. And this is your spouse's or your partner's income, or money that's coming to you through, it's not earned by an hourly wage, by your work. It's someone else's work, or it's a tax return, money for a loan, maybe a grant, maybe lottery winnings, inheritance, gifts. Now on February 10th or 11th, depending on where we live on the planet, there is going to be a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipses are associated with closures and endings, sometimes abrupt, sometimes we aren't as active a participant in the situation arising as we would like to be, so we don't have as much control. But the lunar eclipses are basically removing something from your world, depending on what house it's in. And for you, it's the 2nd house, Cancer. This lunar eclipse is occurring at 22 degrees of Leo. And like I said, it's occurring in your 2nd house. The 2nd house is the house that's ruled by Taurus. And it's a very personal house as well. It's actually the opposite, like the sister sign to the 8th house. The 2nd house is the house of your money, your earning ability, your self-esteem, your values, your possessions. It's the things that you want to keep close to you and you want to know where it is, if it's down to the last penny, or where your lover is, or where your children are, or where your most cherished possessions are. It's your self-esteem as well. It's how you feel about yourself. So this lunar eclipse could be bringing an ending or a change or a resolution in some way in that 2nd house of money, earning ability, self-esteem, and possessions. Possessions are anything that you could point to or classify or identify as mine. And that could include a partner or a spouse, because you would introduce them as my significant other. The Sabian symbol for 22 degrees of Leo reads, "In a circus, the bareback rider displays her dangerous skill." And when I meditated on this, well, firstly, Sabian symbols are used to represent 0 to 30 degrees of each zodiac sign of the astrological wheel, and they were created by a clairvoyant psychic named Elsie Wheeler. Now, when I meditated on this Sabian symbol, I thought about the actual visualization. I visualized what was going on in the Sabian symbol and I was really drawn to the grace and the poise and the strength and the athletic ability and the tenacity to be able to stay on top of a wild animal, a horse. I mean, horses have to be broken so you can ride them, but it's a training process, and it takes a lot of strength to be able to do bareback riding. And the fact that she's performing dangerous skills on top of it means that there has to be a poise and a grace to it as well. There's a synchronicity in the Sabian symbols of, I'm sorry, my hand's making the bed, or my hand is bouncing off my leg, making my little tablet bounce. I'm sorry. There's a synchronicity between the Sabian symbols of the eclipses that are occurring in February that I really like, and that I will highlight more when we get to the solar eclipse. But on the 18th or 19th of the month, we've got the sun moving into Pisces, meeting up with Neptune in the 9th house. And from here on out, it will be 9th house energy that is going to be triggered in this astrological report anyways. The 9th house is the house of your worldview expanded through study or travel. And what I mean by that is higher education, long distance trips, adventures, questing. It's the study of foreign languages. It's the study of religion and philosophy or astrology or legal system matters, political matters. It's the house of foreign people, foreign places, and foreign things. And the fact that the sun is moving into the 9th house with Neptune, it could be that you are dealing with issues of boundaries. In that 9th house, it could be that the sun is highlighting issues of boundaries, or highlighting the want, need, or desire for long distance travel or higher education, or any of those 9th house matters that I discussed. Or it could be that somebody from a foreign place, or someone who is foreign to you, comes into your world. It's funny how that stuff kind of plays out. Now, on the 25th or 26th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, we're going to have a solar eclipse at 8 degrees of Pisces, and it will be Neptune influenced. There will be a strong Neptunian influence under this solar eclipse. Neptune is the planet of nebulousness, illusion, and imagination. It's also associated with addiction and delusion as well. Now, solar eclipses are the beginning point, the initiation point of something new. This is like a powerful new moon, if you will. Very, very powerful new moon. Once again, in the 9th house. So it could be that you are starting to feel a need for those 9th house energies of that worldview expanded through study or travel, through higher education, through study of religion, philosophy, astrology, legal system matters, foreign languages. It could be interacting more with foreign people, or just wanting to go to foreign lands. The 9th house can be a very spiritual house as well, so you could be undergoing a spiritual rebirth or a spiritual renaissance of some sort as well. The Sabian symbol associated with this solar eclipse is a jockey spurs his horse, intent on outdistancing his rivals. And the one key thing that is the synchronistic point between these two Sabian symbols is the horse. And that, for me, makes me think of Sagittarius. And then when I think of Sagittarius, I think that Saturn's in Sagittarius. And I think of the Saturn square Neptune that had happened through all of 2016. I feel like these eclipses are vibratory reflections of what has gone on in our world, and hopefully indicative of the growth that we've endured through this transition process. Saturn square Neptune is a difficult energy, John Oliver had his entire last episode of 2016, basically the last 10 minutes of his show, where he was saying, fuck you, 2016, because it was just that bad of a year for so many people. But there's definite new growth. There's definite emphasis and highlighting in this ninth house energy. You want to stretch your wings. You want to expand your mind. You want to learn more. You want to see more. You want to experience more. And that's a beautiful thing, Cancer. Now, when I was meditating on that Sabian symbol of the jockey spurring his horse, intent on outdistancing his rival, a lot of the same themes of poise, grace, strength, tenacity, will, force of will, came up, and was very reminiscent or reflective of the prior Sabian symbol, for me, at least in my meditations on this. Now, finally, on the 25th or 26th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, Mercury, the planet that represents thought, movement, and communication, will be moving into Pisces as well, meeting up with the Sun and Neptune. So it could be that you start talking or researching. Either, if you're not talking about it, you're doing the research on it, about either going back to school or getting another degree if you've already got a degree. If you're not doing that, it could be that these videos are inspiring you to learn about astrology and you start digging through YouTube and Google and trying to teach yourself. I pretty much taught myself through watching YouTube and learning how the zodiac worked and how the planets moved in between different houses. And the internet's an amazing resource for that sort of thing. But, I mean, you can teach yourself anything. It could be that you're wanting to learn foreign languages, or you could really be having communication with someone from a foreign place, or they're just completely different to you. It could feel like they're alien to you almost. Now, one thing that I want to mention as well before I transition over to the cards is that where Venus is moving into at the beginning of the month, she will be tiptoeing back over through the months of March and April during the Venus retrograde. So pay attention to what is going on at the beginning of February, because there will be resonant themes. It will feel kind of like deja vu. You will feel those vibratory echoes of like the same themes, maybe different faces, different names, but the same themes playing out in that 10th house for you, because Venus will be retrograding through that house, and depending on your other placements, you'll want to pay attention as well. So, Cancer, that's what's happening for you astrologically for the month of February. I intend on pulling 4 tarot cards for you total. I also intend on pulling a Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle card for you, as well as a Sacred Rebels Oracle card from this Sacred Rebels deck. It's by Elena Fairchild, and the artwork is by Autumn Sky Morrison. It's a real fan favorite of many who follow this channel, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So, Cancer, let's go ahead and get our shuffle on. Alright, there was a card that popped. I'm going to pull him, leave him out. For my new viewers, that's a lagniappe card. Lagniappe is a little something extra, a word that we use here in Louisiana, where I am from. Whenever cards pop, though, I do use that also as a symbol for time to cut. So it really kind of, with the cards jumping like they did, it kind of impeded on my little talk that I do while I shuffle, so it's kind of messed my mojo up, if you will. Alright, let me take this time really quick to remind you that this is a general reading, and that if these messages do not resonate for you, then I invite you to check out your moon and rising sign, because you are more than just a Cancer. You have a little bit of each zodiac sign in you, because we have, each of us, 12 houses in our charts. Some energies more prominent than others, depending on our placements. But yeah, you have a moon and a rising sign. I invite you to check those out as well. If you don't know what that is, then please Google a free natal chart and fill out your birth time, birth information, and if you can't figure out where your moon and rising sign placements are, you can send me a screenshot of the chart and I will tell you where your moon and rising placements are, because I feel like that's something everybody should know. So, alright, there's that. Let's get your Sacred Rebels Oracle card, my dear Cancers. Okay, and there's your Oracle card. The cards are really popping out. I guess they're eager to speak. It's been about 3 weeks since I've recorded. A lot of stuff has happened in between, and I'll address that in another video. And I'll release that when I release these if you want to know more. But now I'm pulling from the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle deck for you. I'm going to cut. Alright. Okay, Cancer, what I'm going to do now is pause very quickly, flip these cards over, do the tarot math, and I'll be right back with your story. Hang tight, y'all. Hi, Cancer, I'm back with your cards, so let's get started. The card that fell while I was shuffling is the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles, for me, represents a mature, stable, pragmatic, maybe stubborn, maybe a little mule-headed or bull-headed individual, probably of the earth sign variety. If not that, this is speaking to the lunar eclipse in your second house, but we'll get to that in a second. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Now, I say that this is attributed to the lunar eclipse because you are having a lunar eclipse in Leo in your second house. The second house is the house of Taurus. It's the house of your money, your earning ability, your possessions, your self-esteem. It's the house of mine, and it's the house of my things, my possessions, my values. And like I said in the astrology portion, anything you could point to, identify, classify, or introduce as mine would qualify as a second house item. The lunar eclipse is associated with endings, closures, and resolutions, and sometimes they can be shocking. Eclipses bring change, whether we like it or not. And he's riding in on a dark horse. That may mean something to some of you. It's interesting that I say that this represents the lunar eclipse, and the Sabian symbol also speaks of an individual riding a horse. Yeah. The underlying theme or overarching energy of the spread is the Three of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles, the 3 represents for me the 3rd house on the astrological wheel, which is ruled by the zodiac sign of Gemini. It speaks to your short distance trips, your siblings, cousins, neighbors, and interactions with people in your neighborhood. It also deals with your commute and your vehicle. It deals with your communication skills as well. It's how people interpret you, but how you interpret others, and it's also just the way that you communicate. Whenever I see the Three of Pentacles, I think of your car keys or your house keys because it just looks like a key. Can't help but not see that visually for me. This card with the pentacles here, once again, indicating earth sign energy, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, with that lunar eclipse occurring in your second house. You also have Venus in an earth sign in your 10th house. That's a Capricorn ruled house. I feel like you're dealing with people, either you're watching okay. Mercury still hasn't fully cleared its post-retrograde shadow, so forgive me. I see this card as an apprenticeship card where this individual is displaying their skill for these critical eyes right here, for the individuals back here to watch and see. This individual is under scrutiny and performing a task to show their competency in being able to carve these filigrees in this church window, or however you want to look at it. It could be that you are performing tasks and feel like you're being watched, and you may resent it. You may not understand why you're being watched. If it's not dealing with being watched, then I definitely feel like your car keys or your car house keys, something like that, that's going to be important to a lot of people as well. The black in the background also makes me want to tell you that it is always darkest before dawn, and to understand that fact, and we cannot have the light without the dark as well. The first card in the top three for clarity is the Four of Swords. The Four is representative of the fourth house on the astrological wheel, which is ruled by you, Cancer. It's the house of home and family, or roots and foundations. Home is where you live, or where you consider home to be. Family is who you share that home with. That can be your parents, that can be your spouse or your partner, your children, your fur babies, house guests, roommates, or housemates. Or the structure and foundation, either internal or external. It can be to a house, a building, or you as a human being. Your internal structure being your bones, or your internal philosophies and such that were molded and shaped by the people in your life early on, your family. The swords represent air sign energy. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. This card is a card of rest. It is, for me, the Minor Arcana Death card. It definitely, for me, represents that there is an ending coming to you, especially with the lunar eclipse that we're going to be dealing with on the 10th or 11th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet. And the fact that you are a Cancer, you're ruled by the moon. So any lunar phenomena that goes on, it affects you and it impacts you, whether you recognize it consciously or not. You can feel a little bit more emotional around the full moons. You can feel a little bit more moody. You can feel a little bit more, like homesick or wanting to be a homebody, just depending on your aspects as well. But you're ruled by the moon, so those lunar activities, those lunar effects can have a real serious impact on you. And it may be that, one of the things that I haven't really spoke about is the fact that your health is a resource as well. And that's something that I would consider a little bit of a second house energy. It's covered more in the 6th house because that's work and health. But without health, you could do nothing else. You have to have health as a resource to expend so you can go earn and make money and that sort of thing. That's how I correlate it. And the thing about the 6th house, I'm looking down, I've got a list of where the planets are for you right now. You are dealing with a transit of Saturn in your 6th house of work or health. So if it's not a work situation, it is a health situation, or it could be that your work is impacted by a health situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a death coming. It could just mean that you are put on rest, like bed rest, and it's a situation where it's a forced bed rest. Or it could be an illness that makes you bedridden. and maybe keeps you from work, and that has you bothered and annoyed. But there is, I mean, I can't not deny the fact that I do see this as a minor arcana death card, but I don't see this as an actual physical death. I see this more as the ending or the summing, the resolution of what's going on in that second house with the lunar eclipse. That's just one way of interpreting it. The next card is the Knight of Swords. And it may be that you need to have surgery. Some of you may need to have surgery, because I see, especially with the way that this is laid out, next to the Four of Swords, it could be that you're sick and you find out that you need to have surgery. The swords represent air sign energy again, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. But whenever I see, and once again, it's another rider on a horse, but this one, it's the white horse, the dark horse and the white horse. That's interesting as well. The sword in his hand could represent like a surgeon's tool. It could also be that this solar eclipse makes you go through and cut out things in your world, or it makes you want to cut a path in your world through the 9th house. Studies, higher education, your worldview expanded through study or travel. Could also be that you're feeling feisty and wanting to debate, and if you're sick, you may be on the internet more, doing some internet, social media sort of stuff to pass the time. If that's the case, don't feel like you've got to win every battle, Cancer. Take care of yourself first. But this individual, the Knight of Swords, is a more mature energy, someone who is not as quick to get mad over a situation like an Aries or a Leo or a Sagittarius would. But this individual knows the facts of the situation and will school you in a debate if you step to them on an issue of facts. So be aware of that as well. So if this isn't like a surgeon or some sort of doctor or health issue that you're dealing with, if it's a work issue, then be careful if you're encountering this individual, because they can and will slice you up quickly with the facts of the matter. There's silver lining in the situation, but it feels like you may be doing battle with an Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius just because of the flag that's in this guy's hat. It's red, and whenever I see red near the head, I think of Aries, and that's a fire sign. Red, fire. That's my association. Another reason why I think you might be dealing with a fire sign, pardon me, is this last card that showed up. It is a major arcana card. It is the Sun card. It's the 19th card of the major arcana. 1 plus 9 is 10, and that is the house of Capricorn. That's the house of your career, your status, your reputation. It's a house of dealing with authorities, authority figures, and authorities in their field, like an expert, say a lawyer or a doctor. And I also see like the sword signs, especially characters, as someone who uses their words to argue, like I said, that would debate you down like a lawyer. But the Sun card for the 10th house, I really feel like this is indicating where Venus is. I think that this is also a really good time for me to interject this as well. Where Venus is at the beginning of February, you're going to want to take note of what's going on, because Venus will be going retrograde in March and April, and she will be tiptoeing back where she is right now in February. So you may be feeling like vibratory echoes of what is occurring right now for you, say in March and April, and it may give you an opportunity to reassess the situation through March and April as well. But be aware of that. The Sun, representative of the zodiac sign of Leo. The Sun rules Leo. We're having that lunar eclipse in Leo. I don't think that that is by any means a coincidence that this card fell. the sun represents yourself. Well, it represents your life force. It represents your self-expression and your will and assertion. It's your life force. It's the spark that makes you you. This card indicates success and fulfillment. I also see this as a possible pregnancy card. It may not be you. You may be getting messages of people around you being pregnant. Or it could be that you just are feeling fertile or creative or dealing with kind of want to be a little crafty, kind of wanting to create things, do things, make things. This is a happy little guy. But this definitely indicates the Leo zodiac sign. Leo rules the 5th house, and the 5th house deals with creation. I like to think of the 5th house as the house that has, like, literally your DNA and fingerprints all over it, because it's where you've got the most skin in the game. It's the house that governs your children and the creation of your children. It's the house of romance and dating and falling in love and your social circles and how you interact in those social circles and what you do to seek pleasure and have fun and what you do when you create. And it's the house of pleasure. So, I think that after, well, within 6 months' time, there's going to be some major changes for you in that 2nd house and in that 9th house. It could be that you're falling in love with a foreigner, Cancer. That would be interesting. Now, I did the math for you on the tarot spread. We got the 4 of Swords. And we got the 3 of Pentacles. And the Sun is the 19th card. And that totaled up to 26. And 2 plus 6 is 8. And we're having Mercury move into the 8th house on February 7th or 8th, depending on where you live on the planet. And just to refresh you, the 8th house is the house that's ruled by Scorpio, and it's the house of other people's money, regeneration, transformation, metamorphosis, life, death, rebirth, and birth. And it's also the house of sexuality. And the interesting thing is this lunar eclipse is happening in the 12th house. And just on the opposite side of the 2nd house is the 8th house. So it's almost like Mercury moving in is what tips the scales to make the 2nd house go. It's that last straw that broke the camel's back is literally what I'm seeing play out for you. So there's that. Now, Scorpio, let's move on to the oracle cards because I've rambled and rambled. The first oracle card that popped the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle card that I pulled for you is the Sapphire card, and it deals with awareness, eloquence, and wisdom. It can help heal and amplify the vibrations of the throat chakra and the 3rd eye chakra. The card reads, Sapphire is a stone of fidelity and loyalty. It calms and heals the mind and helps you channel information and aids in discerning the most effective communication method. You've pulled this card because you need to eloquently express your innermost truth with insight from the highest of planes. Meditate with Sapphire for peace, intellectual stimulation, and ancient wisdom. What also is interesting is that Taurus rules the throat and the neck. And with this lunar eclipse occurring in the 2nd house, it may be that there is a proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back, and you have no other option but to speak your truth. Marinate on it, Cancer. Give yourself some time away from that lunar eclipse so you're not so emotional. Give yourself some time to think about what you're saying and what you want to do. Now, the Sacred Rebels Oracle card that popped for you is the 18th card. It is the Spirals of Manifestation. 1 plus 8 is 9, and that speaks to the Sagittarius World House that I like to think of as your worldview expanded through study or travel. This is that higher education, long-distance trips, religion, philosophy, astrology, political system matters, and legal system matters house. This is that house of foreign people, foreign places, and foreign things. This is the house where we're having that solar eclipse. The solar eclipse is heavily Neptunian influence, so remember that. This card indicates that sometimes what we want is so close, but it can feel so far away. Think of the process of ascending like a spiral staircase. Your perspective in that room is going to shift based on where you are in relation to that space. Your view of that room is going to give you a 360 view in total, but not all at once. Or think of like a corkscrew or just a screw where with each turn there's more grip. Well, ascending that corkscrew is the same theory. Ascending that staircase is the same idea or analogy that I'm trying to bring forth. It's the fact that your perspective is going to shift and your perception is going to change based on what you want and its relative distance to you. Just take a few more steps on that spiral staircase and you go from one room to a completely new world, from one floor to another. Just keep working and keep walking up that spiral staircase. Understand that your perspective will shift, your perception will change, the view will change. The view is subject to change. So is the path. But pay special attention to those things that people would call coincidences. It's synchronicity. It's divine timing. It's divine messaging. Now, did you get it, or did it pass you by? Be aware. Have keen observation skills. I paid attention to a lot of internal prompts that I was getting this past weekend, and it ultimately helped save my best friend's life. And I will put up a story time video if you want to know what happened. But Cancer, that's what's going on for you for February. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you already have, I thank you from the bottom of my very grateful heart. I'll be around mid-month to pull some more cards for you, and I think I might have some time to do a little something extra for the Valentine's/Venus retrograde thing. I'm not going to make any promises, but I hope I can. Y'all send me some good energy, so maybe I can get it done for you. Please take care of yourself, Cancer. Lunar events affect you big time. Be kind to yourself during this transition phase, because that's what eclipses do. They bring in transitions, they bring in changes, and sometimes those changes really suck. But it's all to make us better human beings. And it really sucks to hear that if you're going through hell. Winston Churchill said, keep going. Please be kind to yourself and save some of that kindness for others. Because we're all going through private battles in our world some of us may never speak about to another living soul. I hope you're well. Please take care. And until next time, Cancer, namaste, and bye, y'all.